Hey there. This is the last episode of the season. Yeah, everybody does that. The YouTube people do it. I'm quitting this, I'm quitting that, and whatnot. So I figured I'd trick you a little bit. Don't hurt me. Please, be kind, be gentle to me. I was really just trying to have some fun. This is really the last episode of this season. Why did I pick this particular time to end the season and what makes a season? I don't really know. It's more of a arbitrary thing. Arbitrary just meaning like kind of I made it up. I just figured it out, or maybe I didn't figure it out. I just threw it out there. Yeah. So yeah, me. I've made some changes. So what's happened since the last episode, which admittedly I think has been quite a while back. There's been a lot of things going on. So as the YouTubers say, and that's important right there. That's what do they call it? A taste of things to come, so to speak, as YouTubers say. Let's get into it. So I went on vacation last month, and that was interesting. So this is one of the biggest, most convoluted vacations I've been with the family for a while. So a lot of that was on a cruise. Somehow or another, some of my wife's family and I were conspiring to have a vacation on a cruise ship. So we figured it out, and it took it didn't take too long, but I mean, I think we scheduled this like 6, 7, 8 months, 9 months in advance, which is usually not what we do. We usually don't figure out vacations that soon. I'm much more spontaneous, I guess, in that regards. But anyway, we went on a cruise. We went to the Bahamas. We went to Nassau. We went to Bimini, and all very interesting places. And so this was our second cruise that we've done. Me and Julie, not the kids. This is the first cruise I've ever been on. But the first one we went to was in Cozumel, which was a long time ago, really long time ago. And anyway, so this was another Carnival cruise. So we flew down to Florida, spent a couple days in Alabama, and then got on the cruise. So anyway, fast forward through all the boring bits and whatnot. The kids really, really enjoyed it. The seas were a little on the rough side. Sustained winds like 40 miles an hour. But overall, it wasn't too bad. If I had to do it again, I probably wouldn't choose Carnival. Just because if I was going to do a cruise, I think I'd be willing to pay a little bit more money to have a better bed. My king size bed was quite a bit lumpy, and our last Carnival cruise, the bed was even worse. So I feel like I would want a better bed. I feel like I've deserved that. I don't have much of a tolerance for sleeping poorly. But anyway, it was still pretty good. It was, if you're going to do like some kind of family reunion type thing, which this cruise was like 35 plus people, on Julie's side of the family that were on it. And, it was kind of neat that you could kind of run around the ship and do stuff and still kind of be in touch with, people on the boat, but you could kind of drift away and kind of go do your own thing without offending anybody or, whatnot. So that part was pretty cool. I think outside of that, the food was okay. I wouldn't say it was really, really great. On these types of cruises, really the food is inclusive in the price of what you pay. And then you can pay a little bit more and get a little bit better food, which the sushi on board was pretty good. You had to pay a little bit more for that. But aside of that, the food was just kind of mediocre. But there were some beautiful views. Speaking of food, we'll just kind of segue into like our first destination, which was Bimini. Bimini is small. Bimini is a small island. not a whole lot to do there. We went and did this kind of beach resort kind of thing for the day. When I say day, I mean like 6 hours, because you spend an hour getting off the boat and at least an hour getting back on. And it was really windy, and I wanted some conch. Conch is like a shellfish of sort. Never had it, and I don't really keep kosher anymore. And so I was like, couldn't tell you the lot. Next time I would probably ever be in Bimini or the Caribbean directly, and I want to try it. So um, I was lucky enough that my wife indulged me in that endeavor, and so she got me some fried conch. And as soon as I opened this thing up, something interesting happened. So kind of a windy day. I didn't see any bugs anywhere. Nothing. It was kind of beautiful. Wasn't too bright. It was a little overcast, but mostly still pretty sunny. As soon as I opened up this to-go box of fried conch, I was assaulted by flies. I don't know where they came from, but it reminded me of this funny movie scene where James Woods it's kind of a parody of The Exorcist. There's all these flies, and I was just like, I really just couldn't eat it. I tried. Yeah, got a couple bites down, but it was a swarm, and I just threw it away. Just couldn't do it. And so I was trying to figure out, like, is this a unique thing? Is this something that is maybe it's just a one-off kind of thing or whatever? But apparently, conch is such a in-demand type of thing in Bimini that, yeah, they have flies that's what they eat. So there you go. Really, really kind of bizarre. So yeah, if you're eating conch in the Bahamas, do it inside. Do not do it outside. But outside of that, we got back on the ship and almost got arrested for taking pictures in an area that didn't have any signs. Didn't say you could. Really kind of a little odd, but got back on board ship. We went to Nassau, which was really, really interesting. As far as how big it was, I think it's the biggest place in the Bahamas. Atlantis, the hotel is there. A lot of the pirates, like the original Pirates of the Caribbean, not the movies, but like the real deal. A lot of those were based out of Nassau. Really, really interesting place. I got some really great shots of leaving there. The harbor there is really kind of interesting. Looked totally like something out of a movie. But anyway, we left. Had a couple days back. I got to stay with my stepmother for a few days and deal with some things left over from my dad's passing, and just kind of gathering up a lot of photos and other things that Dad had left behind. Interestingly enough, all that family history on his side is, how should I say this? It's kind of like a movie, like where somebody passes away and you learn all this stuff about them and nobody said a word about it or whatnot. And I don't know. My dad was kind of like that. There were so many pictures I'd never seen. He just never felt compelled to tell us about it. And part of me was like, am I going to be like that? Or am I like that? Am I just kind of one of those people who don't open up and tell my kids things? And is it just old hat or whatnot? So, I mean, I've got a podcast. If you're listening to this is probably a pretty good indicator that I'm not like my dad in that regards. I'm trying to get this off my chest out there and whatnot, for whatever reason, whether I'm alive or dead. Just the whole family history thing is, I'm still digging through it. I'm trying to take pictures of everything, even pictures of pictures, just to kind of keep them out there and more accessible than just wasting away in a filing cabinet somewhere or in a box. Yeah, I really want that family history to kind of be a part of who we are. So there were all these little mementos and things, like there's this beat up old silver cup that's got my dad's name and his birth date on it. And I think it was something his parents got for him as whenever he was born, and then whenever I was born, they put my name on it, my birthday year. And so it was just kind of one of these things, like I'd seen it as a kid, but I'd never seen it again um, until just recently. And it had some of dad's dog tags in it and my grandfather's dog tags. And it's kind of just a emotional moment for me. I don't know if anybody really saw how emotional I was about a lot of that stuff. And, it's Christmas and all these things. And it's hard to process a lot of that stuff. I'm very much more of a person who I don't, how do I say it? I process things slowly. I'm like a sarlacc. If you get the Star Wars reference, it takes time. I chew it over. I mull it. I'm considering it. I'm not necessarily making a snap judgment on it. You know, on some things. Some things I just need a little bit more time to think about. It's not to say I can't make a snap judgment, and I don't do that. I do it kind of on a regular basis, but certain things like this, I just don't. It's too important to me. Dad didn't really keep a whole lot. And well, I take that back. He kept a lot of little things like paperwork wise or documents or other things, but in the grand scheme of things, he didn't keep a lot of stuff. He was not the pack rat, so to speak. He would keep a lot of certain things, but not just a lot of just random stuff. Um, but yeah, I just kind of been taking pictures and archiving it, but I still want to keep it kind of fresh and alive. But I can tell you this: after traveling that much and whatnot, I kind of feel like I need a vacation from the vacation. I was very much kind of dad mode. I was kind of taking care of everybody else. Um, I didn't get up to do a whole lot that I wanted to do, but it was okay. Um, Coming back, we kind of hit the travel lottery. On our longest flight back, there was nobody sitting on either one of our sections. So um, me and the kids and Julie, we didn't have somebody sitting right on top of us. So that was really interesting. I'd never seen that before. Um, what else did we do on our cruise? Kind of trying to segue off into something else, but I'm trying to cover everything that happened on the cruise. I did weird things that I normally wouldn't do. Like I had my family play bingo. They really kind of were into that, so I was like, okay, I'll pay for it. Let's go do it. You do the bingo. We did Deal or No Deal. I'm still not quite sure if I get all of Deal or No Deal. Maybe I do, but um, yeah. I need a vacation from the vacation. Um, I think. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe it'll just have to wait until whatever the next thing was. Whenever I got back, speaking of vacations from vacations, our cars were frozen. Um, Julie's battery was dead in her car. Mine was almost dead. I couldn't get my car door open. She couldn't get her car door open. Finally, I had to do some kind of redneck solution where I put a space heater on top of a overturned garbage can and put it close to the door. Just let it sit out in the driveway for hours to de-thaw that. I should have had my buddy Luke start the vehicles and get into them, but he was already taking care of the cats and coming to watch over stuff. And I mean, he was an absolute godsend to clearing out some of the driveway and some of the porches just because we had so much snow that happened while we were gone. Having great friends that you can rely on is worth its weight in gold. You know, yeah. jet lag. I had that. Um, oh geez, what else? Um, I think one of the things that I kind of took away from my vacation was the need to live for myself. Yeah, I think and I'm pretty sure this comes straight out of a movie. I think it was Point Break. I think it was a speech that Keanu Reeves is giving to Lori Petty about, his dreams being his parents' dreams, and after they died, he wanted to have something for himself. And so I guess it kind of came to mind, but I feel like most of my life I was living for myself, but I feel like I was held to this higher standard or something that, I needed my dad to approve of certain things, and I needed it to be kind of inside of his box. And I don't know, like I kind of walked away from, what he left behind and what was left, and the fact that he's not available for me to talk to anymore, all that stuff. Um, that it's up to me now. I'm the guy. I'm the father. I'm the guy. It's up to me to live how I want to live, and it kind of corresponds with my business. Yeah, I've got a great friend who's my business partner, but in a lot of ways, I'm calling the shots, and living a life of being the lieutenant and working the shots if somebody else is calling. It's kind of liberating to be, hey, I'm going to do it my way, as Frank Sinatra would say. Just, yeah. So I'm kind of doing it my way. It's there. It's a weird kind of freedom. Um, it's interesting. I wouldn't say that I enjoy it a whole lot. Um, it's just another thing that I need to get used to. Um, but I still enjoy it. I still think that, um, as blessed as I am, that God has done wonders in my life. And I know it's completely up to Him. I know that I can enjoy it. It's, a lot of times, what is it, the imposter syndrome, where you're like, well, I'm not really that person. I'm not that good. That's an imposter that people are thinking of. Sometimes I get that quite a bit. I'm like, I'm not the guy that people think I am. I'm not even the person I think I am. I'm just whatever. And you have to get away from that. Because, yeah, I mean, I guess on some certain level, nobody is who they think they are. But that's life. Say another Frank Sinatra song. That's life. That's the way it goes. It's cyclical. Yeah, and I think that's really the title of this episode is the phase that you're in. We kind of go through these phases. We go through these life cycles. Yeah, I'm almost 50 now, and am I really so different than somebody else at my same age in any given course of history? Um, you know, maybe we live longer, but I'm sure if you slotted me into the right area or time period in somebody's life, you'd see some similarities between what's happening in my life and what's happening in theirs. And probably what will happen in yours, if you're not my age and younger. Um, so yeah, it's a phase. So I'm trying not to be too concerned about the past. I'm not going to let it rule my life. I think I have been too concerned about my past, and it's like a quicksand. You can kind of be absorbed by that past thing. Kind of suck you back under the water. And you can really drown, you know, from a certain perspective. So I'm much more, I guess, futuristic. What does the future hold? What can we do with it to make it for ourselves? That type of future, for our kids and for us. Um, a lot of things that I'm doing at the business are things we've never done before. And how did I get to those points? I'm like, well, I wanted to. Number one, I wanted to. Number two, we've done all these other things and they haven't really worked. Let's try something different. There's a certain logic into it at that. It's like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results doesn't really work out now, does it? So sometimes you have to try something different. Sometimes you have to be that. I remember Anne Rice's interview with a vampire. And I don't remember if it was the movie or the book or if it was both, but I think it was Armand. The vampire Armand was talking about Louis was much more of a person of change, and that the older vampires that Armand was hanging out with, they were stuck in the past, and he was kind of like latching on to Louis because he didn't want to be held in the past. And I feel like there's a lot of people in life that are like that. They're kind of stuck in whatever past they are. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but they're kind of incapable of grasping change. They're incapable of going off into the future. Change is not just in their wheelhouse, and if you left it up to them, they would just never change. And I feel like I'm not that, but also I feel like there's a homeostasis. There has to be a balance between change and what works. And I'm struggling with that, as I always have. Balance has always been something that's stuck in my mind for quite some time. One of my favorite Van Halen albums named is Balance. I think that was the last Van Hagar album. Really one of my favorites of all time. Really, really liked it. But yeah, from a philosophy perspective, having things in balance is a good thing. So, all that being said, getting out of the phases and moving into new phases and whatnot, I very much did not want to record this episode, at least not in the way that you are listening to it right now. I wanted it to be a video vlog, video podcast, whatever that is. And so that is my future. I'm struggling with it. I feel like an imposter in the world of videos. It's never quite the way I want it to be. Like when I take a photo, or record a podcast, the podcast I feel much more comfortable with. I feel like I'm always able to, at least attempt in my perspective, to make the audio part better. But I know that I'll never be able to get to that point until technology gets better or I spend a ton of money on it, and the latter part's not really going to happen. But I feel like from a taking picture perspective or camera thing, I feel like I can take a lot of the pictures I want, and I feel really good about them. And I'm just not quite there yet with video. And that's where I'm like hitting the ceiling, in my mind, like the box. My head is hitting the top of the box. And I was watching this YouTube video about some guy who was talking about, the typical self-help YouTube videos about YouTube, if you're ever seen anything like that. But one of the things stuck out in my mind of what he said was that, and I'll paraphrase it, of course, nobody cares. And he might have said it exactly that way. but nobody cares. Nobody cares, what you look like. Nobody really cares, exactly what it sounds like or what everything looks like, as long as it's okay, and it makes sense for somebody to listen or watch or whatever. That's really the point. Is it engaging enough that it makes it worthwhile for somebody's time? And if you're listening to this podcast, you're the bomb. This is the reason why I'm here doing this. Well, one of the many reasons, but I still find it flabbergasting, and I'm so honored and blessed that you listen to this. Um, I'm going to be honest. I don't put a whole lot of work into it, but I do put a whole lot of heart into it. These are my real emotions, and um, I feel like somebody could do something horribly wrong with these podcasts or whatever. And then I keep thinking, like, do I really care? Does anybody really care, to that degree? And ultimately, I think probably not. I mean, I think people do in some way, but for the most part, it's kind of like Russell Crowe in Gladiator. Are you not entertained? Have I entertained you? Yes. Okay. Outside of that, whatever. Being real about it. But, I do care. I care about my listeners. Some of you I know, at least one or two. But the rest of you, I really don't know. And the only thing I can think of is, how can I help you? How can I help guide you through life? Hopefully my experiences are positive, or at least my recollection of them are positive, and you're taking away something that actually works for you. And so I guess the big takeaways from today's episode is, you're going to go through phases. You're going to go through these different points in time where you're focused on certain things, and at some point you're not going to be. And it's okay if you make that change. You're not betraying yourself or somebody else if that's just not your thing anymore. Like podcasting, for example. I'm still gonna have an audio portion of this that's gonna be on a podcast or whatever. But the podcast doesn't really own me as a person. Like I don't have to do it. I'm not a slave to it. Just like other parts of my life that I just don't do anymore. Like I don't play. I'm grinning over here. I don't play as much video games as I used to, and it's true. But I also don't feel like I owe video games something. It's like, hey, you and me used to do stuff. Xbox, PC, and I really want to play more games, but I don't have the time to, and I'm hurting your feelings if I don't. It's not really that case. Same thing with friends sometimes. Sometimes you kind of grow apart, and then sometimes you kind of come back around, and you're friends again, and that's life. Frank Sinatra had it right the entire time. Do things your way. Do things my way. I'm going to do things my way. And that's life. Love and marriage. Oh man, all that stuff. He was so right about everything. Oh man, but I do really care. I'm not just saying that. But hopefully the video aspect of this podcast, or You're Not My Father, whatever I'm going to call this thing, hopefully that helps us connect a little more. It helps us understand each other a little bit better. At least that's my intent. That's my goal. That's the new phase that's coming in. So, if I'm correct and I'm being honest, and I hold myself accountable to what I just said, this will be my last official podcast of the season. And this will be my last like true form podcast. Everything else will be video, and somehow or another I'll shove it into an audio format that you'll be able to listen to on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and whatnot. That's a lot to say. I keep talking a lot. I'm a talker. It's kind of funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were a talker too. And it was kind of weird for me to kind of just ride in the back seat and just shut up. And it was fine. What they were saying was absolutely 100%. I didn't need to say much at all. It wasn't necessary. But it's kind of what you're used to. So the phase type of thing, you'll get over it, moving on to something else. You'll get past it. It's kind of like, it's like a fight or flight response. Similar, that if something exciting happens and whatever, you feel compelled, you feel urged to assert yourself, to fight somebody or to flee, and run away. And sometimes you just kind of have to pump the brakes and just like, okay, I know I feel this way, but I'm going to stop. And having better self-control over yourself in those types of emotional moments, whether it seems trivial or whether it's not, it's very quite serious. It's a useful skill. So I don't know. What else? What else do I have going on? I've got more travel. I'm hoping to do less travel this year. I want to stay more in the state than flying all over the place and going and doing weird things. But I have enjoyed, like last year, traveling to a bunch of different places. I feel like I checked a lot of stuff off my list. And it's helped me put a lot of stuff into perspective. Traveling and change helps you. I'll bring up one more related thing to that, and then I'll say my goodbyes for this season. Growing up, and I may have said this on another podcast, but growing up, my mother is not a big world traveler. That's just not in her wheelhouse. She doesn't like to travel. She doesn't like to leave. She's definitely a homebody. And some of that stuff kind of rubbed off on me. And to a certain degree, like, I do feel that way. But my dad was the exact opposite. He wanted to go, 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 go. Go everywhere, go do things. And that's just what he did. And I feel kind of both of those. Like, both of those personas are kind of living within me. And as a kid, I wanted to go see and do all these things, but I was kind of terrified or reluctant to do anything about it, like taking the first step and leaving and doing it. And I've got to say, the first step is always the hardest. It's like you have to do that. And if you don't, then, I'm not going to say you're wasting your life, but you're wasting opportunities. You're wasting a chance to go do something that could be incredibly beneficial for you. But I've grown so much in all the different travels that I've done. I've grown not just as a person, but I've also kind of fulfilled a lot of parts of my persona in my mind that I've wanted to have done. Like sounds kind of funny, but like, I went to Chicago last year and I was like, wow, I really want to go do this. And in my mind, there were all these things that were going to happen in Chicago, almost magically. It was like the Chicago Cubs were going to just show up and be like, hey, Thomas, we're glad you're here. I didn't really think that, but, in the back of my mind, there was these very incredible things that potentially could happen. And the reality of it was reality. Chicago's a big city, it's really busy. Things are expensive. There's a lot of stuff to do there. Some things were interesting, some things weren't. Some things were more interesting than they should be, and some things were way less interesting than they probably were or could have been. But it's something that fulfilled an emptiness inside of me. And I'm like, okay, I've done that. Would I go to Chicago again? Maybe, maybe not. I would definitely go to a Cubs game. I feel like that's something I would definitely go do. But outside of that, probably not, you know. And that's it. It's like New York. Like, after being to Chicago and being in a super big city, I'm like, I don't really want to go to another insanely big city. But there's all these different things in New York that I really want to go see and do. So it kind of helps me focus more on that. But I tell you, if I didn't travel as much, if I didn't go and do all these things, I would be so scattered. And I have been like, I'm just going to go and it's going to be great. And sometimes it's not great, not without planning. Oh man. Travel changes you. I think it's good. You grow. You should go do it. Travel more. And here I am talking about I don't want to travel more this year. And now I'm like, I kind of do. Oh man. Where do I end? I guess this is just how I do it. I just sign off and say, see you later, everybody, and have fun and enjoy yourselves. And when I do video, it's not going to be as freeform. So I'm going to lose something out of it. You'll probably lose something out of it. Maybe it'll be for the better. You won't hear me just chattering along about whatever. It'll be much more focused because, it's more visual than it is auditory. I don't know. But anyway, I'm your host for You're Not My Father. I'm your host, Thomas Brando Greenman. I hope that you stay in touch, that you check out whatever videos we're doing in the future, and I hope that it happens within the next 30 days or so. But love you. Take care. Be a great person. Be great to yourself. Be great to others. And take it easy.